I hope that you're well. It's Richard Wade, and I'm coming at you today from the northeast of the UK in Newcastle upon Tyne, right here on the coast. Miserable weather out there, but we're going to talk very briefly about farm health and safety, and in particular, accidents and incidents and the things that are going to cause real problems in your workplace if you work in the agricultural sector. You might be aware this week is Farm Safety Week here in the United Kingdom, and there will be lots of activities going on talking about how to stay safe and how to be free of accidents and incidents and ill health whilst at work in this sector. What I want to do, I'm going to do a little chat today, about 5 minutes maximum, and then on Friday, which is the end of Farm Safety Week, I'm going to do a bit of a quick wash up. And on Friday, I'll talk in a little bit more detail about what we need to do if we own or manage a farm or a rural agricultural business, landed estate, for example. Then I'll talk a little bit about what you need to do if you work on one of those premises. So if you're a farm worker, whether you're full-time, part-time, or a seasonal worker, of which there are many, I'm going to talk about what you need to do to stay safe when you go to work. And there are many factors to consider. So it's a bit of a joint approach, really. We got the responsibilities of the owners and the managers. They can set policy and procedure, provide the right equipment, working attitude and approach to safety, if you like. But then, of course, we need the buy-in from all of the employees and others who interact with the business, like visitors and contractors, for example. So it's a bit of a team effort, a bit of a joint approach. And I'll talk about that in a bit more detail on Friday. So for now then, what I want to talk to you about in this brief session, something that's really, really sad. I'm going to put a graphic on in a moment. And on this pie chart are the causes of accidents and incidents, ill health and death in the agricultural sector. And what you'll notice is that I haven't put a date on it because it doesn't matter. The date is irrelevant. This same slide that I'm going to show you in a moment was applicable 10 years ago, 5 years ago, today, and sadly, it's going to be applicable next year and in 5 years' time and 10 years' time. The only variable is you and whether you take action to keep yourself, your business, and your workers, and your contractors, and your visitors safe, because nothing has really changed. The numbers go up and down each year, depending on a great number of factors like COVID or weather events, that kind of stuff. So we know that the numbers will fluctuate, but this is the sad bit. The causes stay the same. Nothing really changes. We know exactly what's going to happen next year. I am prepared to stake my reputation on this following statement. The slide I'm going to show you in a moment, I'm going to show you again next year in Farm Safety Week 2026. There will be no change. It will be as relevant today, next year, as it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. But we need to do something about it. You don't have to be part of the statistics. That's the beauty, though. We can effect change, but only if we take action. Let me bring the slide up there. Let me very quickly show you what I'm talking about. Bear these in mind. Take them on board. If you own a business that's farming, agriculture, landed estate, working out in the sticks, in the fields, in nature, in forestry, fishing, farming, these are the things that are there. They're going to get you or your employees or your contractors and visitors, unless you are very proactive and take all of the required steps to keep yourself safe. I'm going to go through those on Friday in not massive detail, but a little bit more detail to round off Farm Safety Week. You've seen loads of stuff this week on farm safety. It's been really interesting, actually. I've had some wonderful conversations this week before I put the slide up. I've had a chat with Farm Safe Australia. I was very fortunate to get a little bit of time with Stevie from Farm Safe Australia. discussing the issues that are relevant over on the other side of the world. They don't change that much. In my safety training course that you see tickering along the bottom there, at farmsafetytraining.co.uk, there's 2 courses. One for farm managers, and they're like the supervisors and owners of agri-businesses. And then there's another one for farm workers. And what I talk about inside both of those courses is that doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could be in Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, Ireland, wherever you might be. If you work in this sector, the dangers don't change, do they? You may have sort of climatic conditions associated with those different geographical locations, hot in some places, colder in others, but the business of agriculture, of the land or animals, doesn't really change that much wherever you go, to be honest with you. So it's a given that the slide I'm going to put on in a moment that will identify all of the key factors that will kill, injure, and make people sick every year, because they always have done. They'll be applicable anywhere in the world where you're involved in a rural business. These are the things to be on the lookout for. Let's bring them up. So you can see in my little pie chart, as I said, I haven't put any dates on because they're not really that relevant, to be honest with you. Let's work our way around, shall we? Let's start at the bottom one, the big purple one. They are representative of typical values, but I haven't put numbers on. If you want to know the exact numbers around the statistics, then you simply go to hse.gov.uk. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, there are people watching at the moment, and thank you if you are. I've now just opened up the comments section, so you could be watching on LinkedIn or you could be watching on YouTube. And if you are, thank you for joining me, whoever those people are. I can't see names there, but what I can see is if you have a comment to make or you wish to have any input, simply type into your own comment box and it will appear here on my screen. And as long as it's appropriate, I can bring it in and other people can look at it during the live stream. We're 7 minutes in and I'm not going to be on, to be honest, for that much longer. But let's have a look, shall we? These are the main causes. These are the things that we know guaranteed are going to be killing and injuring people for quite some time, because this, history has told us this is what happens. The only difference tends to be the numbers year on year. It fluctuates and moves around, but these are the things that are going to get our people. So let's start on the big one at the bottom there, struck by moving vehicles. If you think about the sector, whether it's farming, forestry, landed estates, we use big vehicles, large tractors, combine harvesters. We also use a lot of smaller vehicles like our ATVs and our quads and our sitter strides. We use motorcycles. And of course, we've got our 4x4s and our normal cars and other vehicles that are moving around the businesses. We then have others coming to see us, our contractors, our deliveries, our suppliers. We might get visits by local authorities or farm or estate inspectors as part of our quality assurance and audit processes. There's a lot of vehicle movement and a lot of vehicle interaction. And sadly, every year, people, including children, are hit by, injured, and sometimes killed by the moving vehicles. But it's unacceptable. It doesn't have to be that way. All it requires is for us to stop and think and do some pretty rudimentary and basic risk assessments. We know if we introduce people and we introduce vehicles, there's the potential for serious harm or death. So we need to devise basic strategies to keep those people and those vehicles apart. And again, this quick chat's not designed to go into vehicle safety, pedestrian safety, but there's so much guidance available to you on the Health and Safety Executive website at hse.gov.uk. There's a raft of documents, safety on farms, what a good farm looks like. There are specific documents relating to the management of transport and the interaction of transport and vehicles and people, and how to segregate them through barriers or walkways or pedestrian crossings, many different ways and things to consider. So I would urge you to go across to hsc.gov.uk. In the search bar, put in agriculture or farming, transport, and up will come everything you need to know. And then you can use that information back in your own workplace to assess your own risks specifically to your premises and your people, and then devise appropriate control mechanisms to cut out people being injured or killed by transport in your own workplaces. So that's vehicles and moving vehicles. Coming into contact with moving machinery, again, the stuff we use in this business of agriculture, farming, estate management is big stuff. It's heavy, it's got strength, it's got torque. Coming into contact with any moving machinery, such as a power takeoff or a moving part of an engine, a fan belt, whatever it might be, is really dangerous. And again, people lose limbs, people lose arms, they lose legs, they lose fingers, and they lose their life, sadly, every single year. So we need to, again, make sure we've assessed the risks associated with that. In each of these pie sectors that you can see, there's one common denominator relating to control mechanisms, and that is competent, informed, and trained staff. And I'll talk very briefly about that in a moment, but it applies to each one of these. So avoid contact with moving machinery. Every year in the sector, again, and indeed in the latest statistics published by the Health and Safety Executive, again, they're all available on the website, hsc.gov.uk. People are killed or badly injured by being trapped by something collapsing. That might be a stack of hay bales, or it might be a building structure or a temporary structure, or the collapse of stacks of items of equipment, whatever it might be. All it takes is a quick nudge from a vehicle with onto a poorly sighted stack of something, and you've got the potential for serious injury and indeed death. People drowning and getting asphyxiated. Now, I don't think there were any deaths in the last year, actually. The death stats in the 24-25 release was slightly down on the previous year's report, but I don't recall seeing any deaths by asphyxiation or drowning, but the risk is out there. We've got lagoons, we've got slurry, we've got ponds, we've got the potential for people to drown, and when it comes to asphyxiation, to become overcome quickly by slurry fumes. And so we need to be very careful and make sure they're properly risk assessed and inaccessible when it comes to children and visitors and indeed trespassers on our property. I've been monitoring the next sector of cattle very closely over the last year, and I've done numerous articles and published many LinkedIn posts and toolbox talk briefings, if you like, around cattle safety. Every year, people are still being killed by cattle, and it includes both the farm workers and owners, but also members of the public. Over the last year, there have been some very high-profile cases here in the United Kingdom relating to members of the public out walking, often walking their dogs in the countryside during the nice weather when they encounter cattle or bulls in fields and they're a little bit unsure. And particularly if cattle are with calf and the people have got dogs that might be annoying the farm animals, there's a real risk of people being trampled. People don't realize just how quick and angry and aggressive cattle can become. They move fast. They belies their size belies how fast they actually move. And before people know it, they're pinned or they're being trampled or gored. And sadly, people are killed most years by cattle. Falling from height is our next sector, the green one on the right there, around 1 or 2 o'clock on your pie chart. Working on roofs, using ladders, climbing onto hay bales, whatever it might be. getting onto the backs of vehicles, backs of trailers, loading, unloading, there's a risk. There's a risk of falling, colliding with a very hard surface such as concrete or indeed just earth, or hitting something on the way down that can lead to serious injury or indeed death. And then finally being struck by objects on the farm, on the estate, or in the sector, generally speaking. So let me bring myself back into screen. So yeah, I'll probably close that now, and then I'm going to pick it back up on Friday. We'll have a little chat on Friday. But for now, let's accept, not just during Farm Safety Week, this is relevant always, every day, every minute that our people are working in our farms, on our land, in our agri-businesses. Safety has to be your number one priority. But don't make it just your priority. Ensure your people have it as their priority as well. And the way that you can ensure that is by making them cute. And what I mean by cute, K-U-T-E, is ensuring they've got the knowledge, the understanding, the training, and the experience. Remember, cute: knowledge, understanding, training, and experience. And make sure all of your people have that to the level required to enable them to work and operate safely within your business. I hope that's been of interest to you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll